guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this two-piece set. So basically the first thing you're going to do is to get your fabric. So you see I'm starting with the front panel folded into two, and then the same thing is what I have here. I have another piece here, both of them are the same width and the same length. You see, also folded into two, and both of them are also the same length here. But let me start with the front panel. So basically what I have here is her bust measurement divided by 4, which is going to be 42 divided by 4 is 10.5 plus about extra 3.5 inches, right? So now the next thing I have here is depending on where you want your top to start. So my top is going to start somewhere at 6.5, right? But I just placed it on 6, but just know that I'm going to have half an inch at the top here just for my seam allowance, right? And then the next thing you're going to do is to mark from your shoulder to where your under bust is. So I just placed my tape at the beginning here. So I have the first point I have is my shoulder to nipple, my shoulder to my under bust, and then the shoulder to waist. The shoulder to waist is supposed to be at 17.5 and then half an inch of sewing it. So then after that you're going to come down here and mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mark it. I'm also going to mark the same thing at the lower line divided by 2. I'm going to add half an inch to it. Mark it. And then I'm also going to bring it up here too and mark it. And then at the top line here, what you're going to do is your shoulder measurement divided by 2, which would have been 8 for me. I'm going to take away 1.5 from it, so that's going to leave me with 6.5. If you want, you can measure from one side of your shoulder to the other, one side of your on top of your bust to the other. That way you can get the accurate measurement. And if you see, there's also another line here, which is my armhole divided by 2. That's where you have this thing. That's my chest line. So on this chest line, I'm going to add my bust measurement divided by 4. Mark that. And then I'm going to connect from this point to this point to make a curve. Like this, sorry. I'm going to make a curve this way. And then once I've made that curve, I'm going to come down on this line by 2 inches. We're making an off shoulder, right? I'm going to come down on this line by at least 2 inches. Mark that. And then after that, I'm going to connect from here, from this line to this point, and then from this point to this straight line down. And then after that, I'm going to insert my dart. So it depends on you what you want to use. If you're more on the bigger side, you can do 2 inches to create your bustier, but I'm going to do about 1.5 because I don't really want a bustier. I just make it to fit better. So I'm just going to connect from here to here. I use 1.5 inches here. I'm going to connect down, and then from this point on this line, I'm going to come down 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect from here to here. Guys, I already have a detailed tutorial on how to make this off shoulder bustier. And then I'm going to come out here, mark 1 inch. Sometimes you can do the same 1.5 you use here, you can also use that one there too. And then so you can do 1 inch below and then half an inch at the top to give me that same 1.5 I used at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is on this lower line, I'm going to extend it a little bit with that same 1.5 and then blend it into the armhole. So this is going to be the new armhole line. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop 1 inch before where this line touches the nipple line, and then I'm going to connect it from here to this line, and then from here to this line also. And that's basically it. You can use your ruler so it can blend in better, but that's basically it. All you have to do now is just to go in, put your waist measurement divided by 4, and then you mark it, and then add back whatever you had here. For me, that's 1.5. I'm going to add it back, and then I'm going to put 2 inches of sewing allowance. Same thing at the bust. My bust measurement divided by 4, I already marked it. I'm going to take what I have at this point, which is about 1 inch, put it back in, and then add 2 inches of sewing allowance. And that's basically it. I'm just going to go ahead and join this line to this line, from here to here, from here to this point here, and that's it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut. And then guys, if you don't want this line to be straight, you want it to have a little bit of curve to it, you can just come down here by 1 inch and then just blend this part in. So give it a V. You can even bring it down, but I just want it to have a little curve. So that's all I did. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut now. So guys, this is what it looks like. So you see, I finished cutting it, and then all I have to do is just to go back in and join it. So I'm going to join one on each side. So I have one on here and then one on the other side. So that's it for the front panel. Let's go ahead and cut the back. So guys, now you see the back panel, the same piece of cloth, just the same width, the same length, everything. All I did is just to mark 1 inch by this side, or 1.5 for your zipper. After that, I just place back my tape again and mark the same thing. My shoulder to my armhole, so back at 6 again. My shoulder to where my armhole will fall in at 10. My shoulder to my nipple at 12. My shoulder to under bust at 15.5. My shoulder to waist at 17.5. And then half an inch for the sewing. The same thing is what I did here. So all I have to do now is just to go back in again on this, my armhole line, and insert my bust divided by 4 again. Mark that. And then I'm going to also come down to the to this part here, to the nipple line, and do nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mark that, plus half an inch, so 4.5, 4.5. And you see all my lines are starting after my zipper allowance. If I fold it away now, you'll see everything is starting after the zipper. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect this together from this point down, and then I'm going to come up to this point again. Use that same measurement I used at the front. It depends on you. You can measure it on yourself. So from one side to the other, or you can just do your bust, your shoulder measurement divided by 2 minus 1.5 or minus 1. I'm going to mark it here, and then after that, I'm going to connect from my bust measurement on this side with the curve to this line. Sorry. So connect it to this point. And once you've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is on this same line again. Instead of doing 2 inches here, I can just do 1.5, because I'm not trying to make the line too curved, because there's no need for any dot here. This is just for you to get a straight line. So I'm just going to go from here now and just blend it in this way. There's no bust at the back, so it's never advisable to make it too curvy, right? If you want, you can even just do 1 inch at the top here. That way this line can be straight, because you're not trying to create a dot. That curve is creating a dot. There's no bust here to be creating that kind of curve, you understand? So now I took it up a little bit. So after that, what I'm going to do is just add maybe 1 inch to the leg of this dot here, and then blend it into back again. When I say adding 1 inch, I mean from after where the curve of this armhole is, where this extension of the leg of the dart is, just add 1 inch to it and blend it back again into the line. So now I'm going to come down to my waist, do the same thing. Waist divided by 4, mark that. And then I'm just going to add 2 inches of sewing. No extra, because there's no darts given here. So I'm just adding my seam allowances. Come up to the bust. I've already marked bust divided by 4, which is here. Add 2 inches of sewing. That's all. I'm going to just connect from this point here all the way to that, and that's it. So I just have to cut the same thing you did for the front. If you want, you can bring it down. It's not even if you want, you have to, so that the back is not just straight. This one I like to bring it down even a lot more, so I can do 2 inches here. So let me bring out this zipper so it's not too, so I can do 2 inches here. It looks really nice when you do this. So I'm just going to curve it all the way to this part. You can even do up to 3 inches, right? Down here. And then for the bottom part, I like to go up by 1 inch. We always do this, so my zip can relax and then it's not also poking at the back. And then I'm going to blend it into the seam allowance, the side, and then this way. So all this I'm going to be cutting out. So guys, this is the back panel. All you have to do now after that is just to go ahead and split open the center back for your zip, and then you have one on this side, one on this side, the two meeting by the center, and then you have these other two coming in on this side. So that's it. So guys, the first thing I did here is, it depends on the fabric you're using, guys. I'm cutting this like an A-line, but just know that the wider you move your fabric, the more angle you give to this fabric. Now you see Zakara I'm using, so if I move it more to the end this way, like I took it and then I folded it in an angle, so the more I fold it, the more flare I'll have at the end. But we're starting with the back, So to cut the back, what I'm going to do is just to go ahead, as I folded this fabric this way, I just ruled a straight line following this line here, ruled it down to the end, you see. So now what I'm going to do is to go ahead and mark about 1 inch by the waist, by this side, because this is where my zip is going to come in, because this is the straight part. So I'm going to add a zipper to this part here. This is going to be my center back, is what I'm trying to say. Line for your zipper. The next thing is all your measurements will start after the line. So the next thing I'm going to insert here is my waist divided by 4. Go ahead and mark it, and then after that I'm going to insert about 2 inches to it, right? In case if you want, you can just do 1 inch here, or you can do 2 inches and use it as your zipper allowance. So I'll just do 1 inch. 2 is too much for me because there's not going to be any dart. So let me just do 1 inch then. And then I'm going to come down to, from here now, I'm going to mark down to my waist. My waist to my hip is at 10 inches. But remember, you're going to be using band, like 2 inches of band. So I'm going to take this up again. And then I'm going to mark where 10 inch is. And then on that line for my hip is where I'm going to insert my hip measurement divided by 4. And then on this one now, I can add 2 inches to it because I don't want it too fitted at the hip. I want ease. But my waist, since it's going to have zip, there's no need to add ease. You need your exact waist measurement, you understand? But for the hip, I don't want it fitted there, so I can add ease to it. You understand? But the waist is where it's going to grip on your body, so you need to add a zip there. So I'm going to add 2 inches here. And then from here now, I'm going to connect it to the waist. If your own is too curvy here, what you can do is just go ahead and add that extra 1 inch. Because maybe your waist is too small, and then plus your hip measurement plus extra 2 inches. Maybe it will now start to look like the angle is too curvy. So you can just add back that 1 inch. That way, you can just go in and add it that. You understand? So that you can bring in the waist instead of making it look like this angle, like the angle is too much. Just go in and add a dart to it. Instead of doing 1, you do 2. So that way you can take away that one with a dart, and then the other one will now serve as the seam allowance, so that the angle is not this. So guys, from there now, my line would have gone something like this. So my line would have gone something like this angle. If I had enough fabric to go, my line would have gone like this in form of an angle, you see. But since I don't have any more fabric, I'll just follow this line here. So now to calculate the length I'm working with is 42, but I'll still add 2 inches of band, and I still need to fold it. So I'm just going to use that 42 on the dot, because when I add my band and then I'm going to need to fold this, it will still balance out. So I'm just going to mark that 42. So from the side here, don't start on this side. I'm going to start from this angle, and then I'm going to mark 42 first. And then I'm going to keep moving it 42 all the way around. In anything A-line is always advisable, depending on the width of the A-line. Like if mine went all the way to this side now, I would have gone up by 1.5. But since it's a little bit here, I'm going to just do 1 inch. So you go up by 1 inch and blend it in. So now the length I'm going to have here might be 42, but here might be 41. You understand? Because when all these lengths drop back down, like when this side now comes down this way, it's going to drop and this part will be poking out. So that's why it's always good to cut this off a little bit, so that by the time it relaxes this way, the length will add up all the way to the side. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut. So guys, you see, I folded my fabric again. Guys, just basically angling it this way. So you see what I did here? This part here, this fabric would have not been enough. So I took out what I cut out from the other one, added it here just to extend this part, so that I can be able to get more A-line. Because this is now the front, the part that will wrap around. So I need it to extend a little bit more. So now with that, I'm going to place this my back panel that we cut. Remember, we have our zipper allowance here. So I'm going to place it this way. And then guys, you know how you make a wrap dress or a wrap top? Normally you extend it by 4 inches in or so, like from your nipple to nipple measurement is what you normally use. But for this one, I'm going to extend it more because it's a skirt and you want it to wrap and go inside on your side. You don't want it to just stop by the nipple line, because normally you stop, one goes in and stop by the nipple line, the other one goes in and stop by the nipple line. But this time around, I want it to cross over and go in a little bit more, almost going to the side seam on both sides, you understand? So that way when you're walking, it doesn't open up, because this is, a skirt and it's actually the slit is in front and it's by the center, so that when you sit down it doesn't fall open this way. So you need to make it come in a little bit more than just the nipple line. So that's why, so if I move away this zipper allowance, now you see all the measurements I have here. So let me measure what I have. If you can add more to your own, that would be great, but what I have here is about 5 inches. But normally I would advise to do, even if you can do more than 5, that would be okay, depending on your size. Like a smaller person can get away with 5, but a bigger person, you might want to extend it a little bit more, because remember, you will still need at least your seam allowance to fold the edge of each of them. You understand? You still need at least 1 inch to fold the edge of each wrap. So let me find a way to tilt it so that I can get more room here. So guys, now all I have to do is just to extend it. So I'm just going to extend this line, and then I'm just going to cut. So I'm going to cut everything the same all the way to this side. So guys, you see I've split open the back and I've also split open the front. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to notch it at the top. So I know where so that I know where the center is. So using this line now, I know that this is where the center of my clothes would be, right? Because this is going to go into a seam. So this is actually the center back. So I'm going to mark it on the front too, and then go ahead and notch it. This would help me so that when I go to overlap it, I know that each overlapping I'm making. So guys, as you can see, I've split the front, the back, sorry, and also the front. So now what I have to do is I'm going to take away this back panel, and then I'm just left with the front. So what I'm going to do, it depends on you what you want. You can take it and give it a curve like this. That way, it's going to have this curve, and then you cut this out. So now the center is going to have a curve going up this way, and then another curve going up that way. You can go like 10 inches from here, or 8 or 6 inches, depending on how curvy you want this part to be, right? Or if you want, you can do the other one, because if you look at the video, you see that one of them has this curvy one, and then one has the straight one. So if you want the straight one that will just give you a little slant, what you can do is at this bottom part here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a little bit of it. I'm not cutting plenty. I'm just going to go in here by, let's say, 3 inches or so, and then cut it off, because I don't want it open. Because first of all, I don't even have enough fabric here, let alone enough to go ahead and cut too much. So I'm just going to cut this much from it, just so that it slits open as I walk. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and then once I cut this off, I'm going to go ahead and fold it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just to go ahead, take this, fold it like the edge of your clothes. So you fold it this way and sew it down. Do the same thing all the way to the top. I'm going to also do the same thing on this other one. Fold it this way and sew it down, and then fold it and sew it down. So now once it's done, I'm going to take it this way, one on top of the other. Remember, we added extra, so we are going to try to add a dart to it. But if you didn't add extra, then there's no need for a dart. If you didn't add extra to your waist, then there's no need for a dart. So I'm going to take that mark that I made here for the center that I actually notched. So I'm going to place each notch on top of the other. So one notch is here and then the other one is here. I know this is the center of my skirt. So I'm going to sew it down on the waist this way, and then I'm going to pick a dart somewhere here and pick a dart somewhere here. So now, you see, this might not be looking open now, but remember, I still need to fold away 1 inch here, and then fold away 1 inch here, and this is something I'm working with. So once I start to work, it will open up. But if you feel like you still want to open yours, go back in and open it a little bit more. So guys, you see, I've gone ahead and joined the skirt. So basically, after that thing that after the part where you sweep, you put this underneath and put this one on top, you just have to go ahead and put in your band all around the skirt, and then put in a zipper at the back. So you see there's a zipper at the back of mine. And then if you want a pocket by the seam here, you can always add a pocket, right? So that's basically what mine looks like. You see what I said? You have to fold this edge here, fold this edge here before you place it on top of each other, because remember, it's going to go underneath the band. So that's basically it, and this is what it looks like all the way to the end. Like I said, I don't want my slits too open because the overlapping didn't go very far, so I wouldn't want to trim off the fabric that I'm still managing. And that's another thing about the hip part here, is that if you want the part where I did my waist to hip, instead of doing that, you can just, after putting in your waist measurement, just blend it into the angle of the skirt, as long as your hip can fit in, so that way you can get more flay. So once you put in your waist measurement, just angle it wider, that way the skirt will just go out flay. It doesn't have to taper in by the hip just to fit a little bit, because it's just flowy, you understand? So that's just what this my own looks like now. So let's move over to the top part. So guys, you see, for my top, I already went ahead and joined the two sides of the back together. And then you see, first thing I did is to join it at the join the seam here, and then join the top on this and the bottom part with my lining. And then after that, I put in my zip. So you see what it looks like on the inside. I flipped it in. So you are going to join, sew the top, sew the bottom, flip it out, iron it. The same, sew the top here, sew the bottom here, flip it out, iron it, and then take a zip and put in between. So this my zip is actually facing downwards because it can't be facing up. It's supposed to face down like this. So now that is done, the next thing I did is to do the same thing in front. You see, after joining my 3-piece in front, 3-piece at the back, 3-piece for the lining, I sewed the top part, sewed the bottom part. Once I did that, I flipped it up from this opening here to the front, and then this is what I have. So you see, so all I have to do now is just to take it the way it is, place it on top of each other, is equal. So place it on top of each other and then insert my measurement. I first measured my waist, marked it, and then I measured my bust, marked it here. So once you finish that, I ruled a straight line. So I'm just going to pin it down and go ahead to my sewing machine and make a stitch all the way down. That way I've completed this, and then all I need to do is just to add my sleeve. And to add my sleeve, it depends on the length you want for the sleeve, but guys, I would advise you add to your length, so that way you can get a the puffiness that you're looking for. So basically what I have here is about let's say is more than 15, because I've already folded the top part. So let's say about 17 inches or so, right, is what I started out with. So 17 inches, but I would even advise that by the time you're done, you should be left with at least 20 inches. But my fabric is not enough, so I'm just going to manage the length of the sleeve like this. So what I'm going to do, you see, I've already folded and made a casing for my elastic, because I'm going to be adding elastic to it. So you have to fold this top part here and make a room for your elastic. Also, the width I have, guys, like I said, my sleeve, you can always change what your sleeve would look like by changing the measurements, like the length and also the width. So you can add to the width also by making it maybe up to 15, so that it can be puffy and drape. So now what I'm going to do is just to go ahead and join this part this way. So what I'm going to do is, the way it is, you see, I'm doing 2 sleeves at a time. Both of them are folded. This is folded and this is folded, and you see I've already made the casing for the elastic. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this the way it is now, bring it forward this way, take the armhole, then take the armhole this way, and then mark what it's supposed to look like here. So you see I've marked it. So I'm going to cut this part off. So once I cut this off now, so guys, you see what I did? Just this armhole part is what I used to measure it, and make sure that you get to the end. So the end here is also the end of my cloth here, and then the beginning of the top is here. So I just mark this here and cut it off. So all I have to do is just to take my elastic, pass it through this casing, pass it from one part of this here, and then come out on this other end. And then I'm going to take it this way on the armhole here, and join one to the end here, and then join the other one to the end here, and just fix it how you normally fix in your armhole. So once that is done, you finished it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And once you do that, also make a casing at the bottom too, and then that casing at the bottom is where you're going to also pass your second elastic, because there's elastic at the top and there's elastic at the bottom. So you're going to pass one at the top and the bottom too, and then you close it up by the side. So I'm going to finish it up and bring it back. And guys, before I forget, you also have to, before you close up this seam here, like I was showing you guys, you see, before you close up this your seam here, you have to make a belt. This is where the belt part comes in. So you're going to take this belt here, and then you're going to insert it in between this part here. If you look at it, the belt is not part of the skirt. The skirt already has a zip, so this is not a wrap. So this is not a wrap skirt. It's actually it's part of the top. So you're going to put a belt in between this front and back panel. So you see, in between this part here, at least half an inch before the end of the top, I added the belt, and then I took it here up to this part here, and then I'm going to close it up. So now when I open it up, there's going to be a belt here. If I want, I can tie it to the back. If I want, I can tie it towards the front. So I have two of them here. One is going to be on this other side too, and then I'm going to close it up. And guys, if you also want to add the button, I know you could see the button there. If I wanted to add this button to the front of this top, like by the center, like 1, 2, 3, what I need is like a basic button, and then I'm going to take maybe a piece of fabric, take that button, put it inside of it, and cover it, right? Cover it all round, like something like this. And then once it looks like this, I'm going to take it, cut off the excess, and then make sure I tack it down so that so that, like, use needle and thread to sew it, so it's strong like this and it's holding it smooth like this. And then I'm going to sew it down, one here, one here, one here. It will be nice, like, I mean, on your own fabric. Like, if I wanted to do it on my own now, I'll just use the most prominent design on it, and then use it as the button, and then place it like 1, 2, 3 on it. So that's basically how you do it. Just tack it down from the back all the way, and that's it. So guys, this is it here. You see what I was saying? So you're going to take each side of the elastic, join it here, and then join the other side, close up this thing, and then sew it from this end here all the way to the side, inserting your belt on this part here. You see, half an inch before the end, half an inch before the end. So that's basically what the top looks like. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Please guys, like, share, and subscribe. Bye.